Do you know who is really running special education on the inside? Guys, I want to give you some special education food for thought. So, I've been in the field professionally for 25 years. That's a long time. My brother is 44 with Down syndrome, which means that I've been experiencing the special education system my entire life. All right. Well, okay. He's younger than me. So I was a few years older than him. Special education law was enacted and the whole system started, right? But I want you to realize that this law was enacted 46 years ago. So hang with me here for a second. Do you realize that there are special education administrators and teachers who were around when the law started? Like when we think about history, I think a lot of times we think about history of like things that happened before we were alive. Now, that might be true for some of you watching. Okay. Totally got it. All right. But when we're working with the special education system and we say the system is broken, the system has red tape, the system says no all the time, the system, that's true because we still have a lot of the old pieces that initially set the foundation for the law in place. And we have many of the same people who were there when all of a sudden the law said, hey, let's let everybody have an education. And there were no certification programs for teachers. There were no research-based methods. There was none of this. Guys, that was 46 years ago. Might seem like forever for some of you, but not really. So when you are figuring out if something's going to work, you have to take data. We know that, right? You have to see if it's going to work. Here's the thing. Special education was a brand new, like was not happening at all. So let's just say it takes 10 years to get things like kind of churning and going. All right, we're into the 80s. And then we've got another 10 years where we're trying to make what we did create out of nothing into something better. All right, so now you're into the 90s. I'll tell you, I was a teacher in the 90s. Oh my gosh. Okay. All right. My boss in several different situations were there and they're still in the field. They were there when special education started, and they're the ones who trained me. They trained me what to do. So if they trained me, and now I'm of the age of a special education administrator or a very experienced teacher, then I'm the one who's making decisions or leading the way based on what the brand new people in the 70s were trying to figure out. And that's why I have hope for the future of special education, because we didn't have Google. We couldn't network with teachers across the country and across the world. We didn't have decades of research. We didn't have all of these things. And there needs to be massive change, but I want to make this very clear. So for everybody who, and if you're hanging out here, that means that you're a special education parent, teacher, admin, or therapist, and you want there to be change in IEPs. You want to know the best of the strategies. You want to figure those things out. But to do that, trust me, I've been doing this for decades, right? You have to figure out, why are things being done the way that they're being done? And why are there no's being said? So no's are being said to doing things differently. That has to do with the history. That has to do with the structure. That has to do with the habit of saying no in certain schools and certain districts. And some schools have completely acknowledged that whatever they tried to set up in the 70s, 80s, and 90s is not appropriate now. And some schools are still trying to make what was in the 70s, 80s, and 90s better. So instead of starting from scratch, they're just trying to make it better. And they've gotten away with it for this long of it just being good enough that they're not like stripping everything down and starting from scratch. So I bring this to your attention because it's important for you to understand whether you're working on the IEP team as a professional IEP team member paid for by the district, right? So you're a teacher or you're a therapist or you're an admin, or if you're a parent, you have to understand that when you negotiate for something new, when you're looking for something new, that you have to have a full understanding of how things are being done, why things are being done a certain way, so you can fully have a conversation on how to do things different. So just making a request of, well, can't we do it this way? No, this would be better. So what? We only have to do what's appropriate. This would be, oh my gosh, this would be best. Nope. Law doesn't give you best. The law gives you a free and appropriate public education to meet a child's unique needs to prepare a child for further education, employment, and independent living. It's in the purpose and findings of ideal law. Okay? Now, how we did that in the 70s and how we're going to do this in 2021 and 2022 should be vastly different. But this is this isn't like pivoting like a rowboat, like, oh, let's go over here. Ooh, a couple of paddles and we're good to go. This is like the giant cruise ship. Okay? And we have to coordinate everything and figure it all out. But it does happen one change at a time. But I can tell you the way that it happens is to understand, okay, so what is currently happening and why are you doing it that way? What data do you have to show that it works? That's why you have to know which questions to ask when you want something new at the IEP table. You got to know. If you ask the right questions and you get to the true answers of why things are being done, you'll find out that most people say, well, this is why we do it, but I guess we could do it differently. You open the door to thinking about doing things differently when you figure out why things are being done the way they are. All right. So I've got 12 IEP questions for you that you can go grab. You can go get them at iepmasterclass.com. All right. IEP Master. Let me see if I can put that up here on the screen. I don't know. Let's see. I'm scrolling through here. iepmasterclass.com. If you head over to iepmasterclass.com, I've got 12 questions that will help you figure out what you need to know so you can get to the change. Because too many parents and teachers are asking for change. They're trying for change, but they're not doing the background work of figuring out what is currently being done, how is it being done, why is it being done this way, and then who do we need to talk to discuss all of these answers and talk about a different way of doing it. It's a whole strategy. It's not extremely hard when you understand it, but you have to understand it, ask the right questions. You guys want an example? I'll give you a specific example. Full continuum of placements. It's been done the same way forever, right? Who's ever experienced a school that said, all kids with such and such, whatever, all kids like this, go here, right? Are they supposed to do that? No. Does it still happen? Yes. If we look at the history of why it was like that, it's because we didn't have special education programs and supports set up everywhere when the programs were developed in the 1970s, right? We didn't have it. It was like, well, I guess we'll put a classroom over here, send all the kids over here. We didn't have a full definition of least restrictive environment or full continuum of placements or those things. So there was a structure set up. Now, if you start opening up the conversation of full continuum of placements as teachers and parents, and you start discussing what is available, what are kind of your in the box programs, meaning like, well, we have this program that does this, and we have this program that does that, and we have this school that does that. Okay, so we have programs. We are not limited to those, but I need to fully understand those. My timer's going off, guys, because I have an appointment in a little bit. And I knew I'd get lost in this conversation and all the things that I'm doing behind the scenes today. So you have to open up this conversation of full continuum of placements and start asking about what are they? What do they look like? To figure out how to get a different type of placement or a different conversation going around placement or more inclusion, you need to understand what is already there, what is working that is already there, what might we be able to use from what's already there, and then work on customizing on what we can do different for each individual child. It's a strategy. People ask me all the time, how do I get really awesome placements in my career for families who were seeking everything from intensive therapeutic day schools. Just it was a high need situation in several different instances. Or how do we get more inclusion? Or how do we get them to like basically build another program? It starts from doing the research and asking the right questions. So I want you to grab the questions over at iepmasterclass.com. I want you to start having the conversations. And I want you to remember that special education is really an immature system. It has not matured. It is a very young system that, you know what, they set up as best as they could in the 70s. They tried to fix it in the 80s, the 90s. Oh, yikes. People started to really go against the system a lot in the 90s. And we're still trying to fix something that's broken rather than start from scratch. But solutions are possible when you do your homework and you ask the right questions. So go head over IEP Masterclass. It's free, guys. Go get the free checklist. It's a free checklist and a free training. I'll be back here on Tuesday doing a free training about things. So go grab it. Think about it. Think about what can you ask to try to, oh, let's see. I've got some questions here. Carolyn wants to know, how do you get a school to have more dyslexia training? Well, we need data. We need data to show that what is currently being provided is not appropriate, is not providing meaningful progress, is not helping prepare a child for further education, employment, and independent living. It's all about data. Does the school need to provide the best system for every child with dyslexia? Honestly, no, they don't. That stinks. Totally get it. Do they need to do better if the data shows that a child's not making meaningful progress? Yes, they do. Absolutely. There's a section in the IEP that's called supports for personnel. You can have training put in there. Did you know that you can have parent training put in there also? Parents are entitled to training on anything that would assist the parent in helping a child reach their IEP goal. So that's something that you have to, I know why there's not training and, on dyslexia in schools. It's because of the history that I just talked about. It wasn't something that was diagnosed or addressed back in the day, right? So can we do better? We can, but you're going to have to use data to get there. All right, everyone, go grab your free IEP checklist. Get ready for the next free training that's coming on Tuesday. Both of those are over at iepmasterclass.com, and see you guys later.